and welcome to episode 34 of the She.Must.Knit podcast. My name is Erin, and thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. I hope you guys had a great week. We've had a really good week. It's been a normal week, but it's been a very wintry week. As I speak, we have snow just falling down. It started yesterday. I think we had some snow earlier this week as well, but it really started snowing yesterday. I wasn't sure if there was going to be buses this morning, but there was. But I have a feeling I'm going to have to shovel the driveway, or otherwise Dennis is going to be locked out of our driveway. Before I get started, I just want to say I apologize if there's any background noise. We have, there's a new development across the street from us, and they are currently building a road from that new development out onto the main road that we are in front of. And I have been waiting for those workers to go for lunch, and they just don't seem to be doing it, and I don't want to sit around waiting all day. So you might hear bumping and beeping and stuff in the background. Hopefully it won't be too loud or distracting, but just in case you're wondering what all that ruckus is, that's what it is. So what do I have for you today? I have 2 finished objects. Can you believe that? 2 finished objects. And then I have a something that I have been working on. I have been working on one of my holiday projects, so I have that to share with you. And then I don't have a collection this week. I'm going to be having that next week, but I decided to do like a little question time. So on weeks that I don't have a collection to share with you, I'm either going to be asking you a question so that we can have a little discussion in the comments, or if you have a question that you would like me to answer, I can do that too. So if you have any questions or you just want to start thinking of some, you can post those at any point in the comments, and I will just kind of make a note of those, and on question weeks I will address them. So let's get started. I'm going to start with a sip of my coffee today. I have a nice cup of, it's probably honestly lukewarm coffee now because I've been waiting for those darn machines to stop beeping, but that's okay. Yeah, it's quite, I don't mind iced coffee. We've discussed this before. I like iced coffee, but it is a flavored coffee. You know I like my flavored coffees. It is peanut butter and jelly. And I know some of you probably just had a gut wrench there, but I actually find it quite tasty. It's the jelly part adds just a little bit of sweetness, and the peanut butter isn't really strong. So it's just a very pleasant flavored coffee. So let's get started. Like I said, I have 2 finished objects. Let's start with the ones that I haven't talked about, I think, in a few weeks, because they are a more just simple project that I've talked about here and there. But it was part of my November goals this month to finish, and they are finished. So I have finished my Tweety Brother socks. This is the last pair of Christmas socks that I have to finish for my little gift pile. So those are done. I am so happy with that. It's just a plain vanilla sock. I do 70 stitches. I'm still doing my German short row heel. I'm really enjoying that. And yeah, it's just a plain sock with a nice rib. And for this one, I started off with a contrast toe. These are leftovers from my September Desert Vista Dye Works socks in the Zom Dinos colorway. And then the main skein is from Dyed by Lindsay. It's a BFL. She doesn't name her colors, but she's no longer dyeing, so even if you really love this, it's not available anymore. But I just thought these make great brother socks. My brother actually picked this skein out, this one here, from my stash when he was visiting earlier this year. So now they are done, and I am so happy. And just in case you're wondering, here's the second one. So I'm just going to put these in my cupboard where I've been stashing all my gift socks. And as we get closer to Christmas, I don't know why I don't do this right when they're finished, but for some reason I wait till like a week before Christmas, and then I soak them all and block them all and make them look all pretty. But this is just going to go in the cupboard for now, and then I will deal with that later. But yeah, all my gift socks are done for the year. And now, does that mean I have gift knitting to do? Yes, I have quite a bit, but at least the socks are done. So the second finished object I have for you, I had anticipated that this would be done because it was such a fast knit. But I finished Avery's Soft Kitty Hat. Last episode I had started it because I was trying to complete a winter set for her. You had seen the cowl that I had finished previously, and then I was casting on a matching hat, and I just thought this pattern was really, really, really cute, and I finished it. So I have it here. It is very bright. This is a very, very pretty purple. This is the same purple that I used to line the inside of her double line cowl, so this is the inside. And I had mentioned last time how the pattern has you start with a rib before getting into the cabling. And I decided not to do that because I knew I was going to be lining this with fleece. Our winters, I personally don't think you can just wear a single layer knit hat unless it's like the wooliest of wools, but I think it needs just a little bit of extra. So I didn't do the ribbing. I knew I was going to line it, and I think it's worked out really, really well. You can see the cable pattern there. Very simple cable pattern. The pattern was very straightforward, nothing fancy. But yeah, that works out really well. It's just your standard. If you're familiar with any of the kitty type hats, I know She.Must.Knit has one as well. I think it's her pattern that I used for Avery's older kitty hat. You're basically just knitting like a square. You're just going around and around, and you're not doing any decreases at the top. And then once you're done, you just kind of pinch. You won't be able to see it on that side, but you can kind of see it there. You sew through the 2 layers and kind of pinch the corners, and when they're wearing it, it creates these little kitty ears. Absolutely adorable. I think little girls look, actually it doesn't have to, I think children look adorable in hats with ears. But yeah, I used some pink fleece, and the other thing I like about this structure of hat where you're just knitting straight and then casting off, it's very easy to add a fleece lining because you don't have to worry about any of that crown shaping. You don't have to cut you don't have to shape the lining to fit the shaping of the hat. You basically just have, I just cut out 2 pieces of pink fleece that were slightly longer than the knitted piece and slightly wider, and then basically seamed them together and stitched it down. And what's nice about this is that it's slightly too long on her right now, but you roll it up and it's just going to be all this nice softness against her ears and her forehead, because that can be a very sensitive area, and it kind of doubles that. And I just know it's going to be very, very warm. And as she grows, as long as her head doesn't get too much bigger this way, I think she should get a couple of seasons out of this, which will be really, really nice. The only other thing I will mention is if you want to line a hat with fleece, like I said, it's very simple, but you want to make sure that, like any fabric, there is a way of stretch with the fabric, so it will stretch a lot one way and then the other way it won't stretch very much. You want to make sure that the way the fleece is stretching is going horizontally so that it stretches around the head. But anyway, so very, very simple, and I will probably, if not, I will pop in a picture right here of her wearing it. I think it looks really cute with her cowl, and I think it's going to be really nice. She'll be able to wear this as of Monday. I have not let her wear it this week because, well, A, she already has a hat. It's not like she's outside freezing. But yeah, I wanted to ensure that nothing was going to happen to this and it was not going to get lost before I showed it to you guys. So that is my second finished object. Oh, and now that that is done, that completes another box on my Crafty bingo square. I had a box to complete a winter set for Avery, so the cowl and the hat. So now that is done. I don't think it gave me a line, but I'm getting pretty close. I have 1 line on my bingo card already, and I'm getting close. A few more projects, and I will have a few more lines, which is very, very exciting. I'll probably do another bingo recap sometime in December near the end of the month, just to kind of go over everything, as well as the 2019 bingo challenge. If you're wanting to join that, keep an eye on the group. But yeah, that got me another square, and I think I'm going to get a few more squares by the end of the year. I'm not going to black out my card. I'm not going to have a full card. I know there's a few projects that are going to give me trouble, like my owl blanket. I think that's going to have to carry over until next year. And I think there's another project that I just don't see myself getting to. So I won't be able to do all my squares, but I'm very, very happy with how I have done on my card this year. So finally, I have what I have been working on, and this is another one of my Christmas projects, my big Christmas projects. Last week I mentioned how I had decided that with my two main gift projects, the Santa pillows and my crocheted hippo, that I was going to rotate them through the month of November. So each week I was going to totally focus my daytime knitting on one of those projects, and then the next week I would rotate to the next one, just to change things up and just to give each project some dedicated time. So this week was all about the hippo. So I started this I checked my project page, and I started this last November with the intention of giving it to my brother and his girlfriend for Christmas. From November. I don't know what I was thinking, that's craziness, but I started it last November, worked on it really, really hard up until the point where I knew I wasn't going to finish it and kind of abandoned it. And then for some reason decided not to touch it at all this year, and come November this year thinking, oh yeah, now I can totally finish it. Anyway, I don't know what the mind does, but that's what I decided to do. But I brought it out this week, and this pattern is the, I think it's the Happypotamus, and it's by Heidi Bears, and she has a huge collection of these kind of stuffies using the African flower motif in different sizes and shapes that you put together to create these really, really cute animals. And I've always wanted to make one, and I was planning, when Avery was younger, I was actually planning, I was like, oh, when she, when we redo her room from like a baby room to more of like an older kid room, I'll make her all these animals and they will look so cute, and we'll do maybe like a safari theme or something. That never happened. But she just doesn't play with like knit stuffed animals very much. Like, she has her favorite kinds of stuffies that she likes. She loves her Beanie Boos. And so I was like, that's a lot of time, so I'm just not going to do it. But I still wanted to make one, and then for some reason, I forget how it came up last year, but I showed it to my brothers, and he and his girlfriend really wanted one, and they picked out the hippo, and I'm making it bigger. So the original patterns are made to be used with a fingering yarn, and that will give you kind of a, standard stuffy sized result. I am using a chunky, bulky yarn for mine. I want a big hippo. I have grand ideas and ambitions to make this some sort of actual piece in their home, because they don't really need like a stuffed hippo in the corner. So we talked about it, and I'm going to try and make it so that it could act like, not necessarily an ottoman that you would put your feet on, but maybe like a little side thing that if you were to put a tray on it or something, it could function as like a small piece of furniture. So I'm making it bigger. I'm going to have to make some sort of internal structure for it so I can stuff it. And I was thinking of trying to figure out how to maybe put some sort of flat surface on it so that it would have something sturdy on its back. So what did I get done this week? I had to look back at my project. It's been in a bag for pretty much a year. And I had to go through and figure out what I had already finished and what I needed to get done. And then I needed to reacquaint myself with the pattern and then get started again. So the first 2 days that I kind of got back into working on it, I feel like I didn't get a lot accomplished because it took me a lot longer to do each piece because I had to refer to the pattern. Whereas this pattern, what I really, really love about it, these African flower motifs, is once you do a few, they're very predictable and you don't have to keep looking at the pattern. So at this point, I can do the motifs without looking at the pattern at all. I know each round, there's only 5 rounds for the ones that I'm doing, and I know what those 5 rounds are. So they're going much quicker now. So when I left off last week, or last year, this is what I had done. So all these little motifs. And one of the other things that I decided was the original pattern has you change colors throughout the motif to give you a different effect. I didn't want to do that. I was like, that's just going to be way too much. And so I decided to use, I specifically looked for some sort of fading yarn or striping yarn or something that would change colors as I went. So that I didn't have to change yarns more than once. I wanted a border because I was going to have to be seaming these after, but I didn't want to change colors like throughout the middle of the motifs. So that's what I've done. I am using the James Brett Marble Chunky. It's one of my favorite acrylic yarns. I've used this for lots of children's garments. It also comes in a DK weight that you can use as a worsted, and then this is the Chunky. And I picked out 2 colors, so this is the one I'm currently working on. This is the one that I started with last year. And that way you get these really pretty, I'll show you some of the ones from last year. You get these really pretty variants in squares without having to really do anything. So like, for example, here's one square where it's mostly the greens and that kind of teal. But with the same yarn, this is another square where, you know, this purple comes in. So you get these shifts in the squares. Like that one has a lot more green. That one has some of the teal and the purple. You just get these shifts in colors without having to worry about changing all these ends. Now the one thing I have to say is I have to thank you past Erin for the way that I did the squares last year is I got through all of the different sizes first. So for this pattern, she breaks them down into different shapes. So depending on where, like how the hippo has to be shaped, she has like 4 corner ones, 5 corner ones, 6 corner ones, 7 I think, and 8 corner ones. So for example, like this is one of the smaller pieces. This is the 4 corner piece, and then this I think is the largest one, which is like the 8 corner piece. And you're basically doing the same thing with each one. Like all these steps that you're doing for each row are the same, but you're doing them either 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, or 8 times. So last year I got all of those kind of odd ones done, the 4 pieces done. I got the 5, I got the 4, the 6, the 7, and the 8 corner ones done. And then the biggest batch of pieces you had to do were the 5 corner ones, so the pentagon ones. And that's all I had left. So I didn't have to go in and try and figure out all these different sized motifs. I only have the pentagons, and so I tried to figure out how many I had left to do, and I figured out I had to do 24 pentagons. And then I knew I wanted to mix the 2 colors. Like I wanted some motifs in this color and some motifs in this color, just to kind of bring in, my brother's girlfriend really likes autumn kind of colors, so I wanted to bring that in for her as well. And so I figured out how to do half green and half orange of the motifs I had left and how many I had to do and blah, 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 blah. So I figured out I had to do 17 motifs of these, like these pentagon motifs in the autumn color. And that's what I've been working on this week. So this is what I have finished this week. All these little pentagons, I think I have about 12 here. So I have to do 5 more in this yarn color. And then I think 7 more, 7 in the green. And so I'm not worried about yarn. I have plenty of yarn. And then I just have to, then it will be the assembly part. And what I am edging them in is just some Bernat Super Saver and just a charcoal gray. I wanted something really neutral. It is a thinner weight yarn than the Chunky, but so far it seems to be okay, and hopefully when I start joining them it will be okay. I really wanted to have, there's still time this week. Like I realized that I'm recording now, but I mean I still have tomorrow. Maybe I'll bring this to my mom's tomorrow. We're gonna go visit, hi Mom. We're gonna go visit Grandma tomorrow, and maybe I'll bring this with me and just try and get those motifs finished up, because I'd really like for the next week, so next week I'll be working on the Santa pillows again. Then the next week I'll be working on the hippo again, and I'd really like it when I get back to working on the hippo, all the motifs are done, and it's just figuring out the assembly, like getting that assembly started. I'm also going to have to get some fabric to line the inside, like to start the internal structure. I might have something in my stash, because you're really not going to see that, right? I might have something. But yeah, basically by the time I come back to this later on in the month, I would really like all these motifs to be done. And I realize it just looks like a giant mess right now. Hopefully, the end goal is that all these little pieces will look like a hippo when I'm done. It's either going to go fabulously well and it's going to be a really cool project, or it's going to be something that you will never see again and we will never mention again because it was just a horrible fail. But we will see. That's the fun of crafting. Sometimes things work out, sometimes things don't, but when they do, it's really, really cool. So next I thought it would be fun to do a little question time. I mentioned before that my weekly collections are going to be moving to bi-weekly just because of the time of year and how long it takes things to dry now, and just it's a slower time for me. But in the meantime, I thought it might be fun on weeks that I don't have a collection to either ask you guys a question and have a little discussion down below, or to answer a question that you may have. So for this week, I have a question for you, and this comes from just, I was inspired by Mr. T. You all know Mr. T, and that's the wonderful thing I think about pets. If you have pets, you know they all come with their unique and interesting quirks and personalities, and sometimes it's fun to hear about other pets and their unique quirks and personalities. Mr. T certainly has his quirks. But one thing that I find really funny is just sometimes cats, or pets in general, like, I know you're not supposed to give them copious amounts of people food, but sometimes they develop a taste for something, and that, you know, you sneak them a little bit here and there. And the thing that Mr. T loves, to me, is so bizarre until I looked it up, and then I thought it was just very interesting. It's not something you hear about every day. So the question I wanted to ask for you, and then I'll tell you about Mr. T. So if you have pets, are there any like weird kind of people food items that they are just obsessed with or crazy about, that just seem like to not fit in? Like, okay, so cats, like, you know, they like cheese and milk and stuff, like that's normal, right? To me, I'd be like, oh, that's not surprising that a cat would get excited about cheese because it's dairy, and even though they're not supposed to have dairy, they like it, right? But sometimes they like things that you're just like, where did that come from? Why on earth are you drawn to this thing? And for Mr. T, it is olives. He loves olives. I put olives, black olives, she doesn't like green ones. I put black olives in Avery's lunch every day, and without fail, when I get out the little bin that I keep her lunchy stuff in, if I get that bin out and I put it on the counter and I have her lunch bag, within seconds, he is all up in my business looking for those olives. And I thought it was the strangest thing until I looked it up, because of course I looked up, can cats have olives? And they can, they're perfectly safe for them. But the reason that he loves and is obsessed with olives is because they actually have something in them that is very similar to what's in catnip. And I just thought that was fascinating. So anyway, every time I make her lunch, he is all up in my business, and I give him, like, I take off a little piece or two of black olives, and he just gobbles that stuff up. I thought that was funny, and I know other people probably have pets who have funny little quirks like that as well, and I would love to hear about it. So if you have an animal in your house that loves some kind of weird food item, I'd love to hear about it below. And then also, like I said, and for future weeks, I will both, if I think of a question to ask you guys, I will ask, but also if you have questions that you would like me to answer, I will put those aside and I will answer them as well. So at any point, you can just post a question in the comments and I will make a note of that. But I would love to hear your pet stories this week. I think pets are just so much fun to talk about and just to learn about. So that is everything I have for you this week. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And if you are somewhere where the snow is piling up, stay safe, please. Don't go out if you don't have to, if the roads are bad. I know I don't. If you know me, you know that's true. But I hope you have a lovely, lovely, cozy weekend and get lots and lots of crafting done. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.